Hi class. As promised, I'm going to go over some graphing techniques in Excel specific to Lab 6, which was your hemodynamic responses during exercise lab. You are going to make 3 graphs from the data in your group related to the submaximal cycling trials. The first thing you need to do is organize your data. So as you can see here, in my group, we had 2 subjects complete the bike trials. Stages are over here, and I've gone ahead and calculated the averages or means and standard deviations for the variables we're interested in, namely systolic blood pressure, diastolic blood pressure, and heart rate. So we want to graph those 3 variables versus the stage. And we're going to select the stage as our x-axis, and I'm going to go ahead and start with systolic blood pressure. And the chart I'm going to use is a marked line chart. So scatter plots typically express a trend, and this would make sense if we had multiple subjects, if we only had one dependent or independent variable. But we want to see the local change between data points. So we want to see what's happening to our subject as they go from rest to exercise and back to rest. And I think this will tell a better story of what our experiment was about. So we're going to go ahead and right click here, and I'm going to graph our 3 variables on the same chart. So first of all, we need to name our series 1, which is our systolic blood pressure. And then we're going to add diastolic blood pressure to this, and I'm going to select mean diastolic blood pressure over here. Good. And then we're going to add the heart rate data as well. So mean heart rate data. And now we have 3 graphs on the same chart. So a way we can tidy this up, number 1, we need some axes titles. Right, so we can go ahead and right click on the axis. That's not what I want, sorry. Let's go here. Let's go to chart layout. All right, so I can go to the formula box up here and type in blood pressure. And don't forget your units. All right, and then we need an axis for heart rate. So in order to do that, both my systolic blood pressure and my diastolic blood pressure are referencing this y-axis. I specifically want my heart rate to be on a different axis. So I'm going to right click, all of the data points are selected, format data series, go up to axis, and I'm going to plot the heart rate data on a secondary axis or secondary y-axis. And there we go. Now I have a lot of space right here that I'd like to get rid of, and since neither one of our subjects dipped below 40 as far as their blood pressure or heart rate was concerned, I can go ahead and change that. Oops, excuse me. I'm going to set the minimum to 40, and I'm going to take the maximum up to 200. I just think it's going to make for a cleaner graph. It's a bit excessive. And that might just be a matter of personal preference. But you don't want a whole lot of extra space hanging out there. All right, so let's go ahead and name this. So it's already highlighted. We can go to Chart Layout tab up here. Secondary. Rotate that. Go up here to the formula box and type in heart rate. I'm going to go ahead and spell that out in beats per minute. And again, this is just a matter of personal preference. I'm getting a little nitpicky. I really want the heart rate facing the numbers that it's referring to. So I'm going to format the axis title. Just right-clicked on that text box right there. So in the format title, I'm going to hit text box and click rotate to 90 degrees clockwise, and that should make for a very nice graph. All right, so you can see we have 3 graphs, same charts, and now you can really see, you can really put together a story here. Now you can certainly do 3 independent graphs, but this way you actually get to see what's happening, the relationship between, say, heart rate and diastolic and systolic blood pressure as exercise progresses from rest, increasing in intensity, and then what happens immediately post. So you can see the recovery period a lot easier, and definitely tells a more complete story of what happened in your experiments. So speaking of that, you notice I do not have a chart title up here. You do not need one, but what you do need is a caption, and we're going to put that caption on the bottom of our chart. So now you might want to go ahead and do this in Word, a Word document. But keep in mind that when we're looking at figures or charts, we want the caption to go underneath versus a table where we would want the caption and title to go above. So I'm going to say that this is heart rate and blood pressure taken at rest, during exercise, and post exercise. And then I'm going to go through and make sure that my reader knows what all of these abbreviations stand for. So SBP. Resist the urge to use a semicolon here. Even if you think they're self-explanatory, don't take a chance that your reader has no idea, or that your reader knows what you're talking about. And then this was immediately post exercise. All right. And sometimes it's a good idea to let your reader know that, hey, I had 2 subjects for this study. And there you go. So that's all you need. You don't necessarily need to write anything like heart rate versus time. Nope, you got a nice caption. It's telling the reader exactly what's happening in this graph. Hopefully it's very self-explanatory and the graph can stand on its own. And that's that. So the next thing I want to show you is how to add error bars, or the correct way to add error bars. So I'm going to do that for our systolic blood pressure. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and right click on one of those data points, and all of them are going to be selected. I'm going to go to Format Data Series, and in that menu I'm going to select error bars. Now I want both a plus and a minus because I'm going to use the standard deviations that I calculated. And we're going to go to Custom and specify the value. The value that we're going to use is the systolic blood pressure standard deviations right here. And same thing on the other side. Okay, so it's, say, plus or minus 2.8. Okay, and that's what this is telling us right here. So looks good. All right, now I have some very appropriate to our data error bars here. All right, so I'm going to let you go ahead and do this for heart rate and diastolic blood pressure, but just keep in mind the more error bars you have, the messier your graph might look. And so if you don't believe that your error bars are necessary, so for instance we had an N of 2, our subjects, were both, we had 1 male, 1 female, maybe different ages. If you don't necessarily see that that's going to make a difference. Typically it does, um, as far as when you'd want to use your error bars. You might want to just leave them off. Because really the true story, or what's really happening in this experiment, or the intention of the experiment, was to see what's happening to systolic blood pressure as heart rate is increasing and then decreasing with rest. Right? So, and what's happening with diastolic blood pressure during exercise. And so maybe taking out the error bars for this particular, I'm not saying always, just for this particular study, or this particular set of data, would be more beneficial, and it makes for a nicer graph, and again, your reader will appreciate that. All right, so good luck. If you have any questions, email me, hardinge@unm.edu.